Hello, I would like to preface this video by saying a couple of things. First of all, I haven't seen my bird in a while, so you will hear tweeting periodically because I don't want to take him out of my room. Secondly, just kind of a note to my mother. Mother, if you see this, I'm not sorry. And that is because I want to share my story because it could be helpful for others in ways that I may not realize, and I think that it's important that things get out in the open and I am transparent with people. I am not lying at all, and you and I both know that, and so it is what it is. Also, I just want to say that I'm going to try to do this all in one take, so I'm not going to be editing this at all because that's not really the point of this. It's not to make a perfect video. It's just to get things out in the open. And so with that, just kind of gonna talk about my story. Prior to 7th grade, things were going really well for me. I had a good family. I was doing well in school. I had friends. 5th, 6th grade, my mother started messing around with people she met at her martial arts class, and so it placed a lot of strain on my parents' marriage. In a desperate attempt to save their marriage, my dad moved my mom and the rest of my family to Florida from West Virginia in order to try to get my mom closer to her family, and hopefully things would have worked out and we would have been a happy family again. However, when we moved to Florida, my mother remained in contact with this person that she had known in West Virginia, and so she was secretly in contact with him, and we moved to Florida July-August timeframe, going into my 7th grade year, and she went to Washington, D.C. with him the day after Christmas of that year, and she had met him again on New Year's, and was just sacrificing what was supposed to be us repairing our family during holiday times to go destroy it even more. And so that kind of solidified the end of my parents' marriage. And so basically what happened was I was left in 7th grade in a very crucial time of development, with a family that was basically in shambles, friends that I couldn't talk to because their parents didn't want them hanging around my mother because of all the stuff she ended up doing with this guy. And so I didn't really have any friends. I didn't really have a family, and my mental illness was coming out of the dark, and so that was kind of when things went downhill. I think that my mental illness was definitely exacerbated by the existence of pro-anorexia and pro-depression accounts. I think that any account like that should really be shut down because I was in 7th grade and I was vulnerable, and because of accounts like that, I began to restrict my food. I would eat 300 to 500 calories every day, and this would go on for weeks until I would get scared that I was losing too much weight and that people would notice, or that I was going to get sick and die, and so I would go ahead and start eating a lot more. And then it was kind of a cycle. I would eat a lot more, and then I would develop more body dysmorphia because I was eating more, and then I would start limiting my food intake again. And then when this went on for years, and right now I'm stable, but I'll get to that in a minute. When I was going into 10th grade, that's when I started implementing more, I started purging, vomiting up my food. I would vomit 3 to 5 times a day in addition to eating very little, and so I lost a lot of weight very quickly, and it was very dangerous. And since then I have gained probably about 35 pounds, and it's been about 2 years now, and I haven't really done anything with my food since then. And I think that the best advice that I can give to anybody who's struggling with self-image and has thoughts that they should restrict their food intake is to just not do it. And I know that sounds very oversimplistic and difficult, but what you have to realize is it's addictive. It's a downward slope. Once you start, you can't really stop because you just want to lose more and more and more. It's a mentality that just keeps going and going and going. And so you need to become comfortable with your body. You need to look at yourself in the mirror. You need to stop hiding behind baggy clothes, stop hiding behind makeup, and take pictures of yourself if you want. You need to do whatever you can do to be comfortable with yourself and comfortable with your body, because if you're not comfortable with yourself, you're going to want to change yourself. And that's true of anything, really, whether it's your nose or your body or whatever it is. You just need to realize, once you look at it, you don't like yourself because you're uncomfortable with yourself. If you can look at yourself and become accustomed to seeing yourself every day, instead of looking at yourself and being like, ew, I don't want to see that. Take pictures of yourself from unflattering angles. Become comfortable with every aspect of your body, and then you won't want to change it. That is how you develop self-love. It's not going to come magically. It's not going to come overnight. You need to compliment yourself, and you need to realize that there are going to be people who are prettier than you. There are always going to be people who are prettier than you. But that doesn't mean you're the ugliest person in the world. You have to become okay with that. Because it's not good to think you're the prettiest person in the world either. Because that can be just as toxic to yourself and to others. I mean, aside from that, I dealt with a lot of other things, especially with my mother and with my mental illness. Ninth grade, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I had been in a depressive episode since 7th grade, basically, and I was put on a mood stabilizer, and my mother was doing a lot of different things. The aforementioned guy, she ended up marrying him, and it was found out that he was a very dangerous person, and that part isn't really my story to tell, but he was very dangerous, and for those reasons, my sister and I had to move out of my mother's house and into my father's house, full time. We were doing 50-50 before that, and nothing happened to him. He didn't get put in police custody. He didn't lose his job for the things he did. Nothing like that happened. Instead, he got to go on and live his life. And to this day, it's very difficult for my family to deal with. However, my mother was reliant on him for money. And so she denied that what happened. And when we moved into my dad's house, she in the past, she had struggled from a lot of insecurities in relation to my sister and I moving away, even though we hadn't moved away yet. And so when it actually happened, when she actually realized that, hey, we're not going to be here anymore, she faked having cancer in order to try to reel us back in. But we knew it was a dangerous environment, so we didn't go back. And she continuously did that. My 10th grade year, she said she had cancer. She said she was getting radiation up in Maryland. It was later revealed, and not to her will. She still refuses to admit she lied about any of this, despite very strong evidence that she did. She just said she was in Maryland getting treatment, which was weird to begin with because she wouldn't have to go outside of Tampa for treatment. And it was revealed that she was really in Lakeland, and weeks later, she went skiing in Switzerland, which you definitely could not do if you had just gotten radiation 2 weeks prior. This past New Year's, actually, she said that she was getting, her cancer had come back, and she was getting treatment for it again, and we pretty much believe that she was running off with this guy again despite having a new boyfriend, and saying that she had moved on, and saying that, you know, he was a bad person, and she believed that he was a bad person, and she believed everything that my sister and I were telling her, and she was with him again, and told us all that she was getting treatment. And we still don't know what really happened with that. We know that she was in his car just a little while ago, which really hurt my sister and I, but it's, I guess with all of this stuff that happened with her, the best advice that I could give to someone who's dealing with someone as toxic as my mother, whether that be a parent or a spouse or a friend or anything really, you have to realize that you cannot change other people. My mother is always going to be my mother. She's always going to make manipulative lies, go way out of her way to make things difficult for other people. And there's nothing I can do to change that. Mind you, I have a half-sister who lives with my mother. I don't get to see her anymore because I completely cut my mother out of my life. And that's what I had to do. And that's the decision that I have to live with. You have to make the decision that's best for you. You are no good to other people, whether that be a sister, like in my case, or anybody else who may be involved with this toxic person. You are no good to them if you are being destroyed by a toxic person. You need to be in a good mental state before you can help other people. You can't put yourself on the line for others because it will destroy you. So you need to do what's best for you and worry about other people later. And as far as the fact that she's my mother goes, it's hard to deal with the fact that I'm never going to have the mother that I always wanted, but you can find love in other people in other ways. I have what's essentially a stepmom, and she's been great to me, and you know, you just gotta realize that even if you don't get what you want from the get-go, you'll still find happiness in other places. And kind of the last aspect of this video that I want to touch on is my journey specifically with bipolar disorder. I know that I mentioned that I was put on a mood stabilizer, but to rationalize all the stuff that my mother was doing, I turned to nihilism and solipsism. And basically what that meant is I looked at things and I said, hey, none of this matters. What your mother is doing, it doesn't matter, because nothing in this world in your life matters. But then I scared myself because through months of thinking, I was like, well, that means that I don't matter. That means that nothing I do in my life matters either. And so I turned to what's called solipsism, and that is basically, I think, therefore I am, except you can't prove that others are thinking. I know that I have a mind, so I know that I exist. However, other people, I know that they have a physical form, but I don't know that they have a consciousness that is actually thinking and processing thoughts. So I came to the belief that this was all a dream, that this was all a world that I had created, and one day I was going to wake up. I went through a lot of trouble to try to wake myself up, and would embarrass myself in front of other people because I would go and tell them that, you know, you're not real, and I created you, and I would try to move things with my mind, and when it didn't work, I would get very angry at myself because I wanted desperately an escape. I wanted to, I didn't want this to be reality. I wanted an alternate universe where things were good, that I could control, that I was in control of something in my life, because my mother was taking all of my control away from me. And so I was put on an antipsychotic, and that kind of repressed a lot of those beliefs. And I struggle with taking my medication sometimes because of those beliefs. They don't completely go away, and my mind always says, well, you're never gonna wake up if you keep taking this medication because it makes the thoughts less strong. And that's a very, very simplified version of things that have happened. And as far as dealing with mood swings and dealing with being difficult for other people to handle with my psychosis and my constant mood swings and my insecurities, kind of what I was saying before, you just need to make sure that you're getting the help that you need. You need to make sure that you're doing what's best for yourself. Try as hard as you can to get therapy, to get medication, because those will help substantially. And really, it's important to realize that you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through the same things as you who would love to share a discussion with you and talk about some of the things that you're going through. And as I said before, this is all very simplified. I can feel free to reach out to me, and I will give you a more detailed version if you'd like, more personally. But that's all I have, and feel free to comment on any questions. Thank you.